Many parliamentarians are murderers by omission.
Were
Many
you
parliamentarians.
one of them?
Oh, I would not have lost my
Oftentimes.
job. I would not have lost my job. How many times have I stood, even in chambers, and gone, majority leader is standing, pushes a motion that you can see, this motion is clearly going to mess up Mwananchi, and no one from the faction of government would oppose it, because the rule of parliament is that you cannot oppose the majority leader's motion. The majority leader is your prefect or the minority leader, so whichever faction you come from.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to oppose. How many motions have I opposed of Aaron Cheriot? Many. That is why I was termed a problematic. No, and the thing is, you're even nominated. It is the party who gave you. So why did we even give you? I was problematic because I would actually read the motion or the bill and whatever and ask myself, these women who I'm here to represent, would they really want me to pass this thing?
Hey there, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. Super excited for this week's episode because I have a woman who's very vocal on matters, gender, basically women affairs, girls and women affairs. And I'm talking about none other than Senator Gloria Orwoba. Karibu sana Alfa House.
Thank you. This is my first time here.
Yeah, it is. And we're excited to have you. I hope you are.
I'm excited, lakini musilete maswali ngumu sana.
We don't do that. We just do nice questions. So to start off, how have you been? You know, I have been seeing you across moving with the United Opposition. How would you describe the experience because you're in government just a few months ago, now you're in opposition. How different is that experience?
Yeah. I was illegally removed from office in May. That's about 10 months or so.
Yeah.
And of course, we won the court case, and I should be reinstated. And legally, I am the nominated senator. However, you know, this government that we fought so hard in 2022 to put in power has decided that they're above the law. So there's a lot of court orders that are being ignored. Amongst them is the order that says that I should be reinstated. It's been a transition. One thing about politics and what I've come to understand, and why certain people make it in politics and certain people have like a fling and disappear, is that it requires a lot of resilience.
Okay.
The ability to bounce back no matter what.
So, you say it was an illegal...
Yeah, it was illegal.
It was illegal for you.
It was illegal because the basis at which, first of all, there was apparently a petitioner by the name of Festus Omwamba. The petitioner who went to complain that my behavior is not that of a state officer. That petitioner is one of the rogue agents that I had taken to a Senate inquiry in terms of these fake diaspora jobs. In April, I had already highlighted these things. Actually, way before April, I think February. That petitioner, as we speak, never came to any of the proceedings of my removal. They never came to the UDA, what they were calling the disciplinary hearings that were stopped, and still UDA went ahead with the disciplinary hearings. They never came to court when we went to the Court of Tribunal, and they just disappeared into thin air. In fact, if you go back to our Senate hearings, when I through an inquiry under the Labour Committee, which I served in very passionately, when I called when I asked or I requested that the Minister of Labour, Mr. Alfred Mutua, be brought to question on all of these things that were happening at that time, a lot of fake jobs, people being conned. He walked in with about 4 agents, and one of the ones that he was with was Festus Omwamba. It's on record and it's on camera.
So now
that guy is apparently in hiding now in Russia because he's being sought for by a lot of international organizations and authorities for human trafficking.
Have you taken any legal steps for these accusations?
Which accusations? This was as a senator, when I got people in I got complaints to my office because they knew that I was working on partnering with government through the National Employment Authority to bring these jobs to people in the grassroots. And when the inquiry started, it was shut down. And that was shortly after. They said, also on top of that, I've been seen with Matiang'i at the airport.
Okay.
And they started my removal. Much later, we have seen the articles that have come out about the diaspora jobs, including some of the very high-level families. There was even a mention of William Ruto's family members or something like that having been involved somehow in that whole assignment, or what do you call it? There's something to do with selling insurance to the people who are going some sort of commercial business. Much later, we have seen New York Times do a story on the same diaspora jobs.
Yeah.
And as late as, I think 3 days ago, Washington Post has a whole feature on Festus Omwamba and how he has trafficked over 70 Kenyans who have all died.
Okay.
So it's a lot, and that's just a very small part of one of the reasons that I had to be removed illegally from office, because I was asking the questions that nobody dared to ask.
So it had nothing to do with you working with Matiang'i, really?
They culminated it to that, because around the same time when I went to welcome Matiang'i back to the country, I had already started the Senate inquiry on diaspora jobs, and it was hot. And if that inquiry was carried to fruition and it was not shut down by Senate, we would have seen Alfred Mutua for who he is. Literally a person that is aiding human trafficking through all the rogue agents.
So all these jobs, Maju, or what were they calling it? The 250 jobs being sent to Germany, I don't know, to Dubai,
Someone
Qatar.
even did for us a breakdown when he said that there's a time they mentioned like 750,000 Kenyans have gone abroad to work in the last something like 1 month or so.
Yeah.
And I saw online, someone did a breakdown of how many Boeings, how many aircrafts that would have been per day.
Yeah.
It is impossible. It's lies.
So the Kazi Maju program is not...
I have always said it.
Maybe the numbers, we may have a
It's
question,
not
but
even
is
the
it
numbers.
functional?
Everything, the fundamental basis of the fact that a cabinet secretary is the one involved in directly recruiting people by going to recruitment seminars, by working with agencies through the National Employment Authority. That by virtue of the fact that when we had the Senate inquiry, one of the questions I asked is, because you're talking about the success rates of all these Kenyans who have gone, can you give us a database of the beneficiaries of this program? One thing that people have not realized, it has 3 elements, but the highest part of the Kazi Maju is that it's a commercial program. When I asked to be given the database of the people who have benefited, because if you're saying Gloria and 6 of her family members have benefited from this program, I should be able to list them and at least tell you even these are their contacts and their IDs and where they are working. To date, Alfred Mutua has never furnished the Senate or any other house, whether the National Assembly or even the County Assembly, with a database of the beneficiaries of Kazi Maju. Something that is very basic because, as I said, it's a commercial thing. Uwezo Fund and Youth Fund are now being pulled into financing Kazi Maju. How is that? You go there, you're told you have qualified, you can go to Saudi Arabia to be a driver. But you need an air ticket, and you need a visa, and you need medical something and some other things. All these things apparently cost something like 150,000. Oh, but you don't have 150,000. Don't worry. We will take a loan for you from Uwezo Fund. Then Uwezo Fund now is giving bulk loans towards Kazi Maju and Youth Fund. Then when the money comes there, it comes into your bank account. But then you are instructed immediately that you must remove that money and send it to the agent. So when you receive the money, you can't even access it. You will be informed by the bank that is working with this program that your money has been processed for the loan. Now you must send it to the agent. And then you enter your account, you send the money to the agent, right? That's the only access you can give is an authorization to send the money to the agent. The moment the money goes to the agent, the stories begin.
That sounds like a very
It's a
coordinated.
It's well coordinated. I questioned this. I brought it to the floor of the House. I brought it to Senate. To date, I am talking to people and asking them, stop arguing with Gloria. Go and ask the hundreds of Kenyans who have been forced into loans that they don't even know where the money has gone. If you go to Nyamira, you have over 100 people who took these loans and they're still in Nyamira.
They were not sent away for the jobs.
They keep saying
the
the
money
contract
went.
has delayed, and not the money went. The bank is asking for you to start the repayment
Oh yeah, because it was a loan.
because it was a loan.
So now with this information, because you've worked in the Senate, so you understand how generally things should be. Besides now raising, you see now if you raise it here, that's information, which probably we have and someone else has. What steps would you take?
see,
Because
at the
I want
Senate-
also to imagine Senate and MPs are your friends.
Yes.
So because that's probably the right way out, are you speaking to them? Are you trying to push for something around that with anyone?
Because when I was I wouldn't lie to you. When I was pushing for that inquiry, everybody, including the senators who were in that labor committee, were telling me that they've been warned not to touch it.
Warned by who?
Your guess is as good as mine. Which family was doing business with this Kazi Maju?
I am not privy to that information, so
Well,
I cannot
The
speak about
answer
it.
the answer is in that answer. So, for sure, Parliament has been captured in all essence. Because immediately I was removed. I want to challenge anyone who's listening to me to go and find out how far that Senate inquiry went. Last I checked, they even changed the leadership of that
The committee.
They put Senator Crystal Asigi as the vice chair. Then they shut it down. Then victims were told, victims who had already come out in numbers, huge numbers. There's a time Senate was full when we were doing the inquiry because victims would come with their M-Pesa messages, receipts, because they are ready to be heard so that they can tell the stories. It was shut down. All the victims were told to go to some building called, I think, NHIF building or something and register their concerns there. And nothing has ever been done. So two things. Thousands of Kenyans that we were seeing even queuing in churches and what were conned out of their money. Some paid 15,000, some paid 55,000. Some took the money from loans to pay it. Others, now later, when they realize getting this money directly from people is a bit difficult, now they involved government through this Uwezo Fund and Youth Fund and all these empowerment funds to take bulk amounts of it, approved, cabinet to cabinet, approved so that it can be pushed to Kazi Maju so that agents can eventually take the money, throw the kickback back to the government entities. And the Kenyans are still here in Kenya. They have no jobs. So on top of being jobless, you now have a loan you have to pay.
Why would a government oversee such a thing? Because that's a CS, that's government.
Because it's a government of murderers. It's a government that doesn't care of Kenyans. It's a government of people who tear gas people and women and children in church. It's a government that shoots Gen Zs in the head when they speak up.
You know, Gloria, you're part of this government.
I know.
If they did not kick you out, would you be saying the same?
But they kicked me out because I started speaking. That's what I'm telling you. I spoke about Kazi Maju fiercely. I spoke about the money for sanitary pads that we got shy of 1 billion Kenya shillings was looted. Thoroughly. I brought an inquiry to the floor of the House through a statement. My statement was shelved. To date, go and ask what they've done about the statement where I inquired that we need to have accountability. The companies that were doing business in terms of sanitary pads procurement and distribution, some of them outright have politicians as their shareholders.
So that's why the looting happened for that.
I spoke about so many things that made so many people. I stepped on too many big toes.
Is it that bad on the political space?
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's very bad. These people only care about how much money they're going to make in the remaining 15 months or 16 months. When I say these people, I'm not just talking about the executive. I'm also talking about those politicians who are sitting there. Most of them know that their future is done because of their association and affiliation with particularly William Ruto and this regime. So the only thing that is left for them to do is to loot through tenders.
So let me ask, now that you've mentioned about tenders, parliamentary committees, I think this week and last week we've seen a lot of, they were doing grilling for governors on misspending and all that, the Public Accounts Committee, the Moses Kajwang one. What is the essence of these committees? Because they will raise very serious issues there, like we saw, I don't know, seedlings of 55 billion, 10 million CG for what?
Senate was very strong during the Orengo time. That's
That's
when
the
there was a
previous one.
Senate. Yeah, that's when there was a Senate. Even if you look at what they did with the findings, the institutions that were forced to act with the Senate findings and how they acted, that is when we had Senate. Now we don't have Senate. There's no Senate now. How do you have a Senate where a chair of a committee finds out that this person has stolen? Cecily Mbarire then says, yeah, we misappropriated that money, but that's not a big deal. It's just 10 million. And then they say, okay, I'm feeling hungry. The senator for Embu says, unajua masaa ya kukula imefika. I'm hungry. You guys, you finish this thing. It's just 10 million. And she has accepted she misappropriated 10 million. Come on, guys, now. What we have to do, see, we finish this thing, we go and eat. And then they finish by saying, wewe, your 10 million next financial year urudishe. Sawa, cheers.
So
Then they go for lunch.
that's the essence of having committees. For us, why do we, as
That is not the
citizens, why
essence.
do we,
And do you know,
why do we fund them?
that's not the essence. And those committees are not the usual parliamentary, they are extra parliamentary responsibility, meaning every time a committee is sitting, there is a payment for anyone who's sitting in that committee. There is an allowance. So that committee essentially is like you're a parliamentarian and then you are now delegated to a committee to go and do extra work and have extra responsibilities of oversight. You still do oversight in chambers, but now this is like extra oversight under the committees. And so that's why you're paid extra for it, yeah? And so that money should count. And I've told you, if you go and look at the time for Orengo, how they dealt with Senate committees and the findings of the committee, if a committee sat and found that there is some illegality happening somewhere, all institutions that are involved, including their authorities, for instance, if it is something to do with air operators, they would bring the regulator. The regulator would be bound to what are you supposed to do with this particular issue. They would commit on the actions that they are going to take. They will commit on a timeline and outcomes. And those committees would then sit to come back and say, did you fire this person? Yes. Did you put a new board together? Yes. But now the Senate committees, they work for the president.
All this questioning we were seeing with Kajwang is working for the president.
I don't want to be crass, but I want to say it's a lot of BS.
So do we need the Senate?
National Assembly and Senate at the moment is completely captured. You heard when we were campaigning in 2022, we were saying we are going to deal with state capture.
Yes.
That is capturing of independent institutions and manipulating them to work in your favor and not how they are supposed to work independently. Now I want to tell you, National Assembly and Senate has been captured.
Was it captured when you were there for the 1.5 years?
Yes. It was captured from the moment I lifted my Bible and said, I, Gloria Orwoba.
That's the swearing in when you got in.
I just didn't know it. That's why I was busy fighting. I'm thinking I'm doing my job of oversight and bringing in inquiries and bringing in, and I'm thinking I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, which is what I was supposed to do. But I should have just lifted my head up and realized there's nothing you're doing because this place is captured. This place is run by what I call the Senate, particularly Senate. I don't know much about National Assembly. It's run by the Senate cartels, You will have a very pressing matter that the speaker will suppress. They will not approve it at the Senate Business Committee. It will never find its way to the order paper. And Kenyans will be asking you, what have you been doing since you've been Senate?
Yeah.
And if you show them the cues of things that you've been putting forward that are being suppressed and they make sure completely through, how this is, I really wish Kenyans would get a sensitization on how parliament works because they'll be able to understand some of the challenges that some of us politicians or members of parliament have, and that's why we're getting frustrated.
But let me ask you,
because it will not be allowed.
For starters, they're on recess.
No.
My big concern actually would be on education. Because we've had a crisis of admission and all that. And up to date, even the Senate hasn't had, I don't know, the education committee hasn't said a thing.
Go and look at the education, especially after the broad-based. Go and look at the education committees and who are in those committees. It's tokenism. You're put in a committee because now there's a broad-based thing. And now we think, it's your time to eat. You have no passion whatsoever, no interest in matters education, no know-how of how to even approach conflicts in that space. But it's broad-based. And there was a handshake, and we're in government.
So we don't care about the citizens?
Parliament is like an extension of State House. This parliament is an extension of State House. That is why they have passed the sale of Safaricom shares. That's why they've passed everything, because they are working for Ruto. And those parliamentarians who are not working for Ruto can never get their matter on the order paper because the speakers, both speakers, are Ruto's speakers.
So do you have any matters that you raised that were
Yeah, I've just told
discussed
you.
that that passed to?
No.
None. So you'd say in your time in Senate, what were your achievements?
Of some of the people some of the members of parliament that were really passionate about legislation. By the time I left, I had 7 bills. There are people who have served 3 terms, they've never had a bill.
Yeah.
Not even at your draft bill, they really actually just have never had a bill, not one. As a first-timer nominated, when I went in, I immediately, even their papers, it was published, I had 6 bills, I can mention them. And by the time I left, I had 7 bills. And in those 7 bills, I managed to push 1 bill to the point of voting. And I lost with 2 votes, the Konza Technopolis bill. And at the point where they were voting, you're supposed to get 24 votes for it to pass, so that now it goes for ascension and it's signed and whatever. I got 22 votes. I had 2 people, Alan Chesang and Osotsi, who voted against the bill. Not because the bill was bad, because the bill cannot be passed by a nominated senator by the name of Gloria Orwoba. So we have to make sure we kill it, because the boys' club amongst them had been informed by I call them State House boys, that bill, we need to bring it back. There's some things that we need to change in that bill so that it can favor the executive. And then also, why is a woman passing a bill and then it passes nominated and we don't even like her?
Wait,
So they gave
even in parliament, there's a boys' club operation.
So they dropped it, and the next day, KJ from Dagoretti South took the bill, exact same bill, then added 3 or 4 things to suit the executive so that the executive still has powers on a lot of the procedures and licensing and whatever within the bill. And then KJ was being celebrated in status as having passed a bill, my bill. And that's why I'm telling you, the only reason the Konza Technopolis bill that I had, which I worked on so hard, the draft and everything, and I had inherited it, by the way, from a former nominated senator. So she was like, oh, you're good in matters tech, this and that. Let's give you this bill at least, because now she wasn't in senator. And then I ran with it. And, by the time you do first reading, second reading, go into the debate back and forth, the committee of the whole. After you finish committee of the whole, there's all these amendments, if they have to be amended back and forth, then you go into the vote.
Yeah.
It's not a one-day affair.
True.
It's like a year affair. And then at that particular time, it's like, no, but we don't even like this girl.
Why didn't they like you?
Because I speak up. Because I don't I don't trade sexual favors for whatever it is. There's a whole cult situation there in parliament. Because I say no to things that I don't want to participate in. And it's very difficult to be a person like that. That's why Millie Odhiambo calls herself a bad girl. It is actually a way of shielding herself from some of this shit.
Oh.
Yeah. So that when you approach her knowing she's a bad girl, she won't take your nonsense. So already there's a defense mechanism there.
So what was your defense mechanism?
I didn't have. I just said no. I was just known to be a person that you just never know what it's not going to be an easy Fanya tu tumekwambia ufanye. For instance, you can't come to me and tell me, oh, we are hating on this person, so we have to make sure this person's bill is dropped. No, I'm like, why? It's a nice bill. It's good for the people, whatever. I'll be the person that will actually read the bill, argue it out with you. I was hard work. I'm a lot of work.
Okay. What would you say were your achievements in the time you've served in Senate?
I tend to think that even with all the I would say challenges, and there was a lot of pushback from the majority leader, for whatever reasons. There was a lot. I was swimming upstream. When I mean I was swimming upstream, it means against all odds. And still, I was able, out of the 7 bills, to have 3 bills that were completely drafted. The whistleblower bill, which later went to Irene Kasilu in the National Assembly. the sanitary pads bill, which I was in the thick of things when they legally removed me, the Konza Technopolis bill, which, as I told you, I lost out on 2 votes. I have the language for immigrants bill, but those 3 at least were drafted to completely drafted, and even the sanitary pads bill, we had finished the second reading, so we were going to go into the committee of the whole, which is now where if you have amendments or anything, and then we would pass it. If we pass the sanitary pads bill, you know, let me tell you, there are things we talk about like teenage pregnancies, HIV prevalence, school dropouts, and all that. They are literally symptoms of period poverty. So the domino effect of passing a bill that says that government is responsible to ensure that every girl in school and every girl or woman in prison is going to be given sanitary pads. It's not, people think like it's like, yeah, and then whatever. No, you'll be dealing with teenage pregnancies. You'll be dealing with HIV prevalence. You'll be dealing with child parents. You'll be dealing with a lot of things that you think it's just a socioeconomic affair, but really it is pegged on period poverty.
So let me ask, that sanitary pads bill, when you exit, did you pass it to someone, or was that the end of it?
No, because remember, it's not like I exited like, oh, I'm leaving next week Thursday. No.
Yeah, of course.
They literally hounded me out of office. One random was it a Wednesday. And then the court reinstated me after something like 3 months. And then I went back and you could see, I could not even access, which is even funny. The issue of me not being able to access parliament in itself even contradicts the International Parliamentary Organization, IPU, that Kenyan Parliament stands for, because you know that all members of parliament, current and former, have access to parliament and some of the parliamentary privileges. So even as a former, I should be able to access parliament. But when I tell you parliament has been captured by William Ruto, it's because for him, parliament is his servant's quarter. So akisema na mufunge gates, it doesn't matter whether you belong to the IPU, it doesn't matter whether you belong to the AU, it doesn't. William amesema mfunge gate.
So the bill will not move forward?
Quite frankly, one thing that you'll realize Parliament is doing, because we are still in, they are aware of the illegality they have engaged in. So it's one of those things where we are aware we are doing illegal things, because even the lady that was sworn in is sitting in Parliament illegally. They went to court and they tried to get a stay order to keep her in Parliament. To date, they don't have a stay order. So it is like, for instance, hiring the CEO of IEBC illegally. You might get away with it now because you have the guns and the police but at the point where you have to not even step down, where all the ducks that you're putting are not in place, whichever authority or powers, I'm going to sue the hell out of Parliament. And I promise you, they will pay. Because they are outrightly operating outside of the law. And if this was an institution that was working like any other parliament, anything that has been discussed with that lady in parliament can be considered null and void. Because we have a standing order that says you cannot have a stranger in chambers.
Yeah.
We have been having a stranger in chambers since. They don't give a damn. Amason Kingi, this is a clear example of how you have an incompetent speaker. That is why Amason Kingi and Wetangula are busy going to do empowerment programs and cheerleading the president. They don't understand their roles as speakers of the House. And the Senate is the upper house. So it is expected, it is more like it's a big brother. But you have Amason Kingi, who's on the begging call of William Ruto. So he will receive a phone call, for instance, and he is going to be told, "Hiyo kitu isifike kwa order paper." You won't see that matter on the order paper.
So you didn't pass it to someone else to push it, or how
I even asked you.
I just want us to understand.
The day when I was removed, do you know that even in my office now, there is a phone of mine, because I had 2 phones, that is still in there. Because I couldn't even access my office.
But you didn't
my
have a soft
personal
copy.
belongings. You're not understanding.
No, I hear what you're saying
No.
in terms of access. My question is, and this is for us to understand how
Yes.
Parliament works.
Yes.
If I have a bill and I'm chased out of Parliament, I no longer serve. Can someone
First
else
of all,
pick it?
there is nowhere in the Constitution where it is envisioned that you are chased out.
Okay. Yeah,
Nowhere
there's
in the
that.
Constitution they envision that we might have a senator and tomorrow she'll be chased out. There is no provision of chasing out a senator as an executive wing. There is no provision of chasing out an elected. People say you are nominated ulipewa. No. It's called you're specially elected by the party. Even the party, in order for them to remove you, they have to follow the proper processes, which they did not follow. So by the time they follow the proper processes, even you, once that process is done and you have literally been removed within the proper processes, then you will even have that ability to be told, now you're closing out, come and hand over.
Okay.
There was no process that was followed. There was no. On Friday, I was called in for a disciplinary. The court stopped the disciplinary that Friday. We served the orders that the court has stopped the disciplinary. On Monday, they had removed me from the party. On Tuesday, they had ratified it through the neck. On Thursday, the speaker announced the vacancy. And you're asking me whether I passed on a bill. I'm telling you, I have a mobile phone in my office that is still in my office. Because, I had a work phone and I have a personal phone.
Yeah.
It is in the office. My kids' documentation are in the office. And the last time I was informed, and I also confirmed, I have a sensor, too much information, but I have a security feature on one of the gadgets that I have in the office to show me when there's movement and when there's access of certain areas. They entered the office. Then they moved everything around and took some of my documentation. I got that from my security feature.
So you're going to sue them?
From here till Timbuktu. But I will not sue an institution only. Because the clerk of the Senate was acting outside of his constitutional mandate. The Speaker of the Senate was acting outside in ile kitu ya hata wewe sasa tuambie. At what point here were you compelled as an office or as an institution to act the way you are? No, you are acting outside of the office. And one thing we need to do in this country, because a lot of these civil servants and public officers, state officers, they have this attitude of, no one will touch me when I'm in office. And when I leave, I can always say it is the office of the Minister of Labor. It was not me as an individual. We need to start personally holding those office holders. And it is there. Constitutionally, you can. Someone like Alfred Mutua, for all the 70 plus Kenyans who have died, if we had a law, he should be hung. Because it is equivalent to murder. It is like holding a gun to someone and shooting them and saying, I'll get away with it because I'm the Minister of Labor. So I'm acting in my capacity as the Minister of Labor, so the Ministry of Labor is now safeguarding me. You cannot go out of your way, kill people, and then come back and say I'm a minister. You must be held accountable to the law. And I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you, and I promise you, I will pursue. I will pursue the institutions and I will pursue the individuals. Not because of vengeance, but because the only way people will stop stealing money, even in this country, or stop engaging in illegalities, is when they know that I might be a senator for 5 years, but then I'm going to stop being a senator.
Yeah.
And then somebody will come and ask me, when you were a senator, these are the things you did. And this was equivalent to breaking the law. But, we cover how many people have been arrested other than Waitutu, who is in prison.
But why is it that when politicians generally, this is not just you, when politicians are in power at that moment, that the issue of accountability doesn't come out as clean? Now that when you get out, even the retired ones, when you talk to them, you start seeing this person looks really like they understand accountability.
No, they know.
But that day they were in power.
No, they know. People, it is not, there are those who will go out of their way to defend illegalities because they'll say, mi ni wa two term, hii regime ni yetu, Ruto ni mtu wangu, so akifanya ilikuwa lazima afanye, what did you expect him? The people who go out and defend illegalities and even defend criminal acts of other people in power. But there are politicians who, by virtue of the benefits that they enjoy, they will not defend the illegality, but they're quiet. And that's what I call, you are a murderer by omission.
Yeah.
By not going out to do your work that should stop that crime, knowing very well that it is going on, that is what I call, it's omission and commission.
Yeah.
By omission, many parliamentarians are murderers by omission.
Were
parliamentarians.
you one of them?
Oh, I would not have lost my job. I would not have lost my job. How many times have I stood, even in chambers, and gone, majority leader is standing, pushes a motion that you can see, this motion is clearly going to mess up Mwananchi, and no one from the faction of government would oppose it, because the rule of parliament is that you cannot oppose the majority leader's motion. The majority leader is your prefect or the minority leader, so whichever faction you come from.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to oppose. How many motions have I opposed of Aaron Cheriot? Many. That is why I was termed a problematic. No, and the thing is, you're even nominated. It is the party who gave you. So why did we even give you? I was problematic because I would actually read the motion or the bill and whatever and ask myself, these women who I'm here to represent, would they really want me to pass this thing? But many parliamentarians, especially when they know it is going to get them into conflict with the House leadership and their party leaders, they would rather be absent on that sitting.
Not present, so didn't vote. So,
aiding criminality by omission.
Yeah, it is. The Catholic Church has sins of omission and commission, so very relatable.
And I keep saying, people are saying, oh, you're talking now because, no, you were not listening to me. You just thought it was drama. Every guy say, oh, saa hii ndio umejua kuongea. I'm like, but you're fools, especially you who are telling me saa hii ndio nimejua kuongea. Maneno ya labor, whatever, I blew the whistle even before that thing took off. I have talked about Linda Mama. I was the first one to stand there and fight with Adan Duale. Adan Duale was trying to convince me that Linda Mama pays for scans. And I had just given birth. And all my antenatal clinics were in Mama Lucy and Pumwani.
That's where you went.
And I'm telling you that there were no scans. Yes, there were no scans.
You're the first public servant I hear who went to Mama Lucy.
Oh, it is in the public. And I stood in Parliament, in Senate, and he argued with me, and I said, you don't pay for scans. Scans are not catered for. And how can you not cater for a scan when even for me to know if my baby is healthy, I have to start with a scan? You should at least have 3 scans in your pregnancy. And he argued with me and dismissed me. And the next time I tried to bring that thing, the majority leader sat on it. So It's just that people have not been listening to me.
You've been talking.
I have been talking. I don't know, maybe they've just been looking at my lipstick.
No, maybe that is one of the things they look at.
Every time they come with a comment for lipstick, I'm like, ona sasa miss point. Miss point juu ya lipstick. Ona sasa.
It's very good lipstick, by the way, just so you know.
I've been talking.
Let me ask, you said some think you were being dramatic, but I remember that time you wore a dress that was painted.
When I had my period. It was not painted. When I had my period. That's a period. It's that you also have. I'm sure you have periods.
Yes, of course.
So I did not wear a costume.
So maybe that's why people think you're being dramatic.
No, people have conditioned themselves that parliamentarians or their leaders are not human beings. So they don't expect you, first of all, even to be pregnant to begin with. That's why everyone was like, this is so awkward. What are we supposed to do with this? Do you know, when I was just about to give birth, I went to the speaker and I told the speaker, I intend on working immediately I give birth. So I need a breastfeeding room that is next to chambers. Because I don't think it would be fair, especially where my bills had reached and my statements and everything that I was doing, that I would just say, oh, wacha niende nikae nyumbani nikanyonyeshe. That's according to me. I know that there are people who would prefer to get their full maternity, but I'm just built in a way that working is my therapy. So I told him I would like a breastfeeding room. That guy, Amazon King, he already knew they were going to kick me out. So what did he tell me? I said, no, don't worry, we are working on it. By the time you come back, you will have it.
So it doesn't exist in Parliament as yet?
They have a breastfeeding room. You leave the chambers, you leave the building, you leave the second building, you go to the third building, you cross the road, there is the breastfeeding. So you run there, you take your baby from the car, you run to whichever room, I don't know where, and then you can imagine your motion is you're queued on the order paper. It's really, let me tell you something. Some of these things, I really sit down and I'm like, really, truly Parliament was made for men. Why would you put a breastfeeding room 3 buildings across next to some toilets?
But we've had women all along who've
Which
never
woman
seen,
have you seen in
who've
parliament
not-
who's pregnant? Have you seen a woman in parliament pregnant?
Yeah, I saw you.
And which other person?
I'm trying to remember.
You have to think really hard. Number one, we've had women in Senate. I have had a nominated senator with me in Senate who hid a 9 months pregnancy. She literally hid her pregnancy. Because the bullying, the targeting, the discrimination begins
They
at
will
the
bully
point.
you because you're pregnant
Oh
in
my
parliament.
God, you will not even be put in committees. Wewe sasa amechoka. Huyo tunaenda
Are these
hapa
things
Naivasha.
for
Tunaenda
real?
Naivasha, hawezi enda, yeye ako na ball.
Sasa lakini kwani pregnancy ni ugonjwa?
So she
This
chose.
thing happens in
She
parliament.
hid her pregnancy. We even had an impeachment going on when she was 9 months pregnant. She would hide herself. We never saw her for at least 4 months. And even today, if you ask her, do you have a baby? She'll tell you, I don't have a baby.
Okay, that one has a problem.
No, she doesn't have a problem. She's just conforming to what politics has been. Because even if she says she has a baby, where she comes from, they know that she's not married. So they will ask her, oh, you got a baby out of wedlock, hatukupei kura. Huyu hata hajamaliza kuzaa, huyu hawezi uongozi, wacha amalize kuzaa kwanza ndo akuje kutishia uongozi. So she has literally decided she doesn't have a child. And she will deny. You will sit I'm sure maybe you've had runnings with her, and you'll be shocked if I tell you that one has a baby. So if my son is 1 year, that one has a baby like about 2 years. No, about 1 year, 6 months or so, something like that.
Hey, politics should
Because
not
her
be
way
about
of
that,
coping with it is, I better not tell anybody I have it's now shame. There's a shame there. So I'm not going to tell him. That way they don't dictate where I'm going, who I'm going, which work I can do. For instance, sometimes you have ad hoc committies where an issue has come up, like the Shakahola committee, and there are people who are more passionate with certain areas. So they'll say, oh, but so-and-so, you're passionate this. So you're telling people you're pregnant. When I was pregnant, there is no committee, ad hoc or otherwise, I was put into. It is the first discrimination of X. Now you disqualify from any extra work. Number 2, traveling becomes, but why are you traveling? You're pregnant.
People travel all the time. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Let me tell you, being a woman in this Kenyan parliament is like it's an Olympic sport.
Okay, somehow I'm getting to understand where you're coming from. You've been passionate about women long enough. I think that's all I have known you for.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Even with the issue about pads.
Yes.
What is it that has driven you to that point, and why? What keeps you
people
going?
remember me for pads because I guess it was the most shocking for them. But
also because you put up billboards which people are very unhappy about.
Which I wonder why they're unhappy about.
Because
the gift of life.
Politicians just want to flash their photos on billboards every time, even for things that are more for the people. I mean, you know, there's a photo going on about a governor who's plastered
on
their
the
face
milk.
on milk.
I know.
So
They
you see, so you understand.
Hey. No, for me. No, for me.
Okay,
so let me explain.
Why did you put a billboard?
First, the original billboard was not an idea of mine. It was not my idea. It was a friend was trying to help me cope with the shame at that time. So they put it up and I thought, oh, wow, this is bold and blah, blah, blah. And you can even see how the billboards grow into from what the first billboard in Jogoo Road was to how they came into these ones where they're like, oh, her face is too big in the billboard, right? And then somewhere down the road when I decided, you know what, I'm going to mainstream this thing so that we can intentionally deal with period poverty from a government and legislation perspective. So I sat down with, it's not really a PR agency, but a PR expert and a branding expert. And they said, any brand that sells has to be associated with something. For instance, and this actually to date, I want to thank them for that. Literally, I could promote their business, They said every brand, when you think of a brand, you have to think of an item or a person. That's why you have brand ambassadors, or that's why you have, it's like you see something and it automatically takes you to that particular brand. Yeah. I want to give an example. Like, for instance, green. Green, if I just say green, the first thing that comes to your mind is Safaricom. For some reason, the way they did their brand strategy, green became such a dominant branding perspective from their end, that even if you're coming in as a telecommunications company, you would really avoid green because you're like, they'll think we are Safaricom. And they gave me different, I can't really go through the details. I have my notes on that, but they gave me different things on this. And then they said, but when you think of period, the reason why we can't mainstream period poverty is because there's no brand of period poverty. What is the brand of period poverty? When you have to be able to see something and it takes you immediately to that conversation. And they said, because of this incident that happened to you in parliament, we believe that you should be the brand of period poverty. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Minda kwa mashiro, mtu akiniona anafikiria tu mini periods. And they were like, yeah, why not? Because then once we can identify you with it, then all the activities under you become easy for you to sit in a boardroom and say, we have distributed 200,000 pads. Do you think you can help us set a factory? It doesn't look off. Today, when I've sat here, the one thing you remember is the period poverty campaign. I've just come from, I did a show this morning where we were talking about politics and all the craziness. And the guy who's a male presenter was like, yeah, even the things for sanitary pads, because he sees me and he sees pads and he sees period poverty. So to some extent, their strategy really worked because they said, we have to mainstream the subject. And unfortunately, there's no way to showcase blood. And then people just think when they see that, they think periods. Which, this is why you need to hire experts. Because you see now that I wouldn't have come up with. In fact, I thought, and I kept on saying, but people will mock me. People will not take me seriously in any other subject because you have made me the face of periods. And they said, yeah, but you have to decide. Do you want to deal with this thing on a mainstream level, or you care much about the shame around it?
So that explains why politicians go that direction.
No,
but on a personal level,
no.
Do you feel
For this particular incident, if it had happened to, for instance, the cleaner of the Senate, she would be the brand, and we would use her face. If it had happened, it just so happened that it happened to me. You understand? And that's for this particular one. But for all the other ones, even as a politician, I won't lie. I have done T-shirts with my name, with my face. It is an identity. Because in politics, you sell an objective, you sell some goals, you sell a vision. How do you sell the vision? First, people have to identify with the vision. An example, when now we are trying to get more and more people to be patriotic, we are wearing the wristbands.
Yeah.
And we have mainstreamed the wristband such that when we get an international, a foreigner, and they come with the wristband, we get excited. Why? Because it's like, it's an identity. We've created an identity for Kenya. And through the wristbands. So politicians also try to create first the identity so that first of all you can know, hey, I'm Sarah, I'm here. Okay, now that you know Sarah is here, what does Sarah have to offer? Now, the problem with politicians is once we create the identity, we don't sell the vision because more often than not, there's no vision.
Yeah, it's just because when I look at it,
And you know why you know that is true? I'm sorry to say this, but you will see today, woman rep will brand, for instance, I'm saying, and please don't peg this to, like you said, milk today. Tomorrow she'll brand motorcycle helmets.
Yeah.
The next day they'll brand caskets.
That's sad.
Of dead people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you bring that person and tell them, okay, explain the thought process. What is your vision?
I want to be seen.
Yeah, and it becomes I want to be seen. Then really then you have an identity. Then you're pushing an identity, but you're not pushing a vision.
But let me ask you, President Kibaki, of course I was young when he was president, brought free education.
Yes.
Would he have put it like
but President
the
Kibaki
brand for free education for all?
In all fairness, there I have to speak for politicians. Kibaki brought free education when he had already gotten the seat. He was already president.
Oh, the governor is already a governor.
But they probably know they're not going to get the seat again.
Anyway.
No, I mean, that's my thinking.
That's your thinking.
That was my thinking is because if I have to go out of my way to brand caskets.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? I'm really, really grasping. I'm grasping on straws. I'm grasping on straws. You understand? But if I'm confident, for instance, I never branded sanitary pads. I don't brand sanitary
Oh,
pads.
they've been branded though.
My pads.
Not yours, but they've been
But I
branded by
don't need
your
to. This is the thing.
other politicians.
I don't need to brand pads because people already know what I stand for when it comes to period poverty. So I don't need that extra, oh my God, let people also know I am the pad. I am giving the pad. I don't need it because I've already sold my vision to the women and they already know what I stand for and they know where I'm going. So the people that I see really struggling with a lot of branding identities, I feel like if they sold their vision, they wouldn't need to do that much brand identification. For instance, I'll give you an example. Orengo, I don't think he's ever printed even t-shirts.
Ndindi Nyoro didn't even print billboards.
Forget,
So they
billboards,
say.
you are going that far.
I'm just
you
putting
know the
at-
basic, billboards, very few people do billboards, by the way. Very few, not all politicians do
But
billboards.
imagine if that one is campaigning and is not even putting a billboard. That tells you they will not put it on.
No, let's not take
a
it to
t-shirt.
billboard because billboard is like next level. All politicians do caps and t-shirts and posters. Orengo, I don't think he's ever done any of them. I'm now saying on the bare minimum, on a brand identification, all politicians do caps, t-shirts, and posters.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen Orengo's posters and caps and t-shirts. And that shows you, and I don't know, I don't speak for those people, but my thinking is people know who he is already. People already identify with his vision. So his campaign is cheaper because they already know them. I'll give you another example. I'm yet to see Babu Owino's branded merchandise. Have you noticed?
That says a lot.
But I've seen so many other people on billboards and other things who are looking for the same seats. So, okay, I'll give you an honest comparison now that is closer to home, that is about me, and I'm not bragging. I have women reps of Nairobi who are aspirants who have already gone to brand bags of beans to distribute in Nairobi.
That's such a low. You should be ashamed if you're doing that.
Because they don't have the identity first. Because some of them, for now 4 years in Senate, have done nothing.
That's why they should be ashamed of doing that.
They have not spoken for the woman who put them in Senate through an affirmative seat. They have not even as much as appeared to be fighting for the woman in terms of any inquiries. They do the bare minimum. Bare minimum. And they've done the bare minimum for 4 years now. Or is it 3.5 or is it 4? And now they've woken up and it's like, oh my God, it's campaign time. And people don't know me. Let's print posters. Why don't people know you? Yet you have had a platform for 4 years, a national platform in Senate for 4 years where you could actually articulate your vision, your beliefs. We could see you championing on legislation for the same people you are going to go back. For 4 years, you've been on the spotlight and nobody knows you. Why don't they know you?
Because they did
And
absolutely nothing.
In the National Assembly, you can say it's difficult for you to get a spot to talk because they're like 300 and something. Every day I went to Senate, every goddamn day I spoke. There was no one else to speak. Sometimes the clerks who sit at the front would actually call me and tell me, Senator so-and-so has just introduced his motion. There's no one in the house. Please just try and contribute to his motion. So sometimes I even contributed to motions, not because I'm passionate about it, but literally there's no one in the house. And the motion has to be contributed to. So the clerks would actually call me and say, can you unaweza kucontribute kwa hii motion? Imagine. And then I would even tell them, oh, I'm sorry, I've just come in. Give me the notes so that I can read, because you can't contribute to a motion that you haven't read. So for 4 years, you have had that spotlight, especially in the Senate. But now you're printing posters and branding beans because nobody knows you. Because you have no identity that you have created through the vision that you want to sell for the people who you want to vote for you.
I just want to tell
In
them,
this
shame on you.
Nairobi.
If you're doing that, you should be
No, but
ashamed.
in this
of it.
Nairobi.
No, they have to be ashamed because you see now
We have
we're at a
Karen
point
Nyamu
where as
who's
young
looking
people we
for-
are calling them out
We
because
have Karen
won't-
Nyamu who's looking for women rep in Nairobi. Right? I don't think she's doing as much as brand identity as Tabitha Mutinda, because Karen Nyamu, we know her and we know why we know her. I don't want to I'm not in the business of abusing and slandering women. So I'll just say she's known. In terms of notoriety, she's known. So now she has to convert that notoriety into votes in terms of, do I really think you can be my leader? That's the challenge she's dealing with now. We have Tabitha Mutinda, who has also declared she's vying for Nairobi Women Rep. Unless I don't want to be the person, but maybe you do your sampling. She's the one struggling with brand identity right now. Because for the many years that she has been in Senate now, I can tell you what she has been doing. But as I said, I'm not in the business of slandering. But you ask yourself why she's... in fact, me speaking of her now, I'm really helping her.
Let's leave those ones alone.
Then you have a couple of I wouldn't say members of aspirants who have been in the space of activism, who I believe have a good chance. They're also now dealing now when we're going into this season, I want you to look at how people are approaching. There are those who are now struggling with brand identity, and there are those people who are struggling with translating the notoriety into votes. Basically, people know you, but do they really think you can be their leader? Now you convince them. And that means all the shenanigans you've been doing for 4 years, you need to find a way to tell them, I was just joking for 4 years.
Joking with our taxes. Wow. What a wow. Must be nice. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Kenyans understand how bad period poverty is and how it's affecting, let's say, the economy overall?
There's a working group that I am in where it's a working group to tie in the impact on local economies, the impact of period poverty on local economies. And what we are saying, we've done the impact assessment in terms of education. Girls who miss 4 to 6 days from school, we've calculated that could be an equivalent of almost 1 term per calendar year. And we've worked out how many lessons that could be. So we've worked out the impact on the education. Mm-hmm. Now we have a working group where we are working out the impact on the economy in terms of, okay, you have this woman who's at a marketplace where there is no toilet. So on the day her period starts, she just wants to go to the marketplace for 4 days minimum. What does that mean? That household, if this is the breadwinner of that household, for 4 days, they have to now figure out how they are not going to have the earnings for 4 days and how they'll survive. That's one thing. You also have the domino effect of what normally happens, for instance, if you have a construction site where there's that woman who is bringing the food. The domino effect of disrupting that pattern of that woman because of periods. That you have the construction workers having to walk, let's say, a kilometer or so to the next person, how that timing now gets into the manual laborer's timing, how that slows down the process of that construction. Those are just the basic ones which you can tie to 1 + 1. Yeah. But then there's that one in the office. The one I'm telling you that people now lie, that they can't even tell you that they're pregnant because they know the impact that will have in terms of the boardroom decisions. Yeah. So now that one is where someone tells you, I can only take sick days. And I think in a month now, on the maximum, I think you have 4 sick days per the labor. I think it's a basic 4 sick days per month or something like that. Is it 3 or 4? And this woman has to take, first of all, exhaust all her sick days on one period and then figure out
how to survive the rest.
How to survive the rest. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or become the periodic sick person who cannot be promoted. Or become the periodic sick engineer who can only go on site certain times and we can't rely on her. So we can't send her on site. So we are always, so you know what, let's hire another person. Let's let her go. Because no one is really understanding. It's not really that she's sick. It's really that she's just having a difficult time during her periods. And then you can scale that up in situations where you're even talking about subject matter experts. Like when you go to the manufacturing industry, there are certain people who do certain jobs that are not even trained except while on duty, especially in manufacturing of this a little bit complex industries, or even motorcycle assembly plants and things like that, motor vehicle assembly plants. Then you look at it and then now you scale up the impact. That's why, for instance, when you go, I'm from the data center background. The data center industry, they always have to set up data centers, preferably in remote areas where there's less traffic, less interference, and less things like that. Most of the times that happens in the village. When you look at the socioeconomic impact of that, in the village, in most of the places where at least the data centers that I've been involved in Europe and elsewhere, they have less skilled workers. So they always have to import workers from elsewhere. So every time you're doing an impact assessment of things, especially now this period poverty thing, you don't look at it as 1+1. Mtu amekosa kwenda kazini, so there's always a domino effect around it, and that's why you'll be told hii ni msimu wa kuvuna in the village, harvest season. During harvest season is the highest teenage pregnancies. Why?
Okay.
They're interconnected. Harvest season is where they need more hands. When they need more hands, most households would say, hata ukimaliza shule mapema, enda ufanye kazi as a minor. Because people are looking for, then you find that's where you have the most interaction between minors and adults. Then you'll find it's the same time where minors, they have to go and join the harvest season, they don't have pads. Then you'll find the highest need of, I don't have pads, but there's this guy. So it's intertwined. So I'm in a working group that's actually trying to get the statistics, at least a sample on certain counties, on the economic impact of period poverty in some of the communities in Kenya. Because matters gender and women and girls basically are always taken as a priority number 100 because people cannot be able to, according to them, there's no dichotomy of how is this part of that.
Yeah.
Mtu anakuambia wewe toka hapa na hizo periods zako unaniambia nini, but really they don't understand there's a whole domino effect around it. And I think once we get that and we'll be able to now bring it in layman's language is when people will start understanding, okay, we must really solve the issue of period poverty. But you asked me achievements, I'm very happy. I am very proud, and I say this repeatedly, that during the Gen Z demonstrations, that the largest number of banners and posters were about taxing sanitary pads.
Yeah.
And it was men who were holding. In the first time in the history of a national conversation of a finance bill, at the center of it was periods. And I always say every day, that's thanks to me.
Yeah.
Even being pinched, that was an act of aggression by the president, and he owes me an apology. But even just that, I remember they quickly misinterpreted it and said, oh, no wonder this guy wants to tax our pads, because they could see me, they only see pads. You understand?
Yeah.
That brand association. And it took me a lot to get out of that mess, even to explain to people. But in one way or another, I want to say it was somehow a blessing in disguise, because it only elevated the conversation. So people were now, on the streets, we had the banners of don't tax the pads. And then the president, with all his bad manners, pinches me. And then the conversation is elevated.
And you've seen the taxing is coming back.
Actually, what has happened, this issue on the National Environment Management Authority. Again, if you go and look at the people there, they are not sensitized on this issue. That's why they cannot see the connection. Because
so what
they want to do is that
what NEMA wants to do with pads.
Yeah, because NEMA is surcharging the manufacturing plants to make sure that they are responsible on the disposal of what they are manufacturing. Mm-hmm. So basically, NEMA is saying, you're the one who's manufacturing this phone. People are using this phone for 1 week, then they are throwing it in the dustbin. Mm-hmm. But in that dustbin where we have our central collection, we can't get rid of this phone. We are having to now collect all these phones, put them on the side, and figure out how to deal with these phones.
Yeah.
Now, exchange this phone for pads. That's what NEMA is saying. That this pad that you're manufacturing, we are having a problem with disposing it, because it is made of plastic, it is not biodegradable, it is this and that. And even when we are doing the collection of all this waste and taking it is costing the county governments and the governments more to dispose of this plastic of yours. Mm-hmm. So now they're saying, because of that, we want to surcharge you
as the manufacturer.
Yeah, you as the manufacturer, because you have refused to go to biodegradable, we want to surcharge you so that now us, where are we spending more money to get rid of what you are manufacturing, and we are telling you to manufacture biodegradable. It's a very theoretical way of thinking about it.
Yeah, because the manufacturer will then pass it to the
Obviously,
consumer or user.
outrightly, the 480 shillings or so that is being surcharged to the manufacturer, I think it's per kg or something, I'm not quite sure of the figures. The manufacturer is saying, let me tell you, and me also, I'm not the one bleeding and using all these pads.
Yeah.
So for each pad user, I'm putting the charge there. Now, who's the pad user?
All the women in Kenya.
Who are poor.
Sadly.
Yeah. So NEMA, in their theoretic way of thinking, and because they want to earn, I don't know what kind of award for going green and climate and whatever other thing that they are pushing, have actually not thought through that thing. In essence, in fact, what they should be saying is, for every county government, and someone should pass, no, we don't even need legislation, this is more policy. For every county government and national government, they should just set aside a budget for disposing pads. And me as the taxpayer should just know part of the taxes that I pay, whether it is VAT or otherwise, is actually going to dispose pads, which the girls need.
So, now this conversation affects generally Kenyans in general, but mostly it's the women, but most are tied to men being their financiers in terms of marriages and poverty. When you see these and you remember we have women reps in this country, then why are we having these people in parliament? If NEMA can come up with such a thing and the women reps are still on holy recess, none is even raising an alarm.
It's not even about being on recess. You see, first of all, the thing that I would detest about being in Senate and feeling like my hands have been tied is that NEMA is a frequent guest of both houses, both the National Assembly and the Senate. They go there every day for some sort of oversight on something. There's always something happening, and NEMA is somehow always in parliament. So this is not even an issue that you need to take a statement or anything. In that engagement, when they're there, if you're passionate and you're there to represent women as you are elected to do, NEMA could be sitting here talking about, maybe they've been called to talk about sewer, whatever, smell, or I don't even know what. But you as a woman in that sitting, you should be able to say, and by the way, this might not be a matter here, and you can do that. You can actually ask the chair of the committee, under A or B, kindly before we release NEMA, there's this matter that's coming up, is it possible? And then you submit a letter from your office to NEMA. So by the time it's coming to be implemented, which now is where they are on implementation of a policy. That is something one of the women, particularly in parliament, should have caught up with, because NEMA is frequently in parliament.
Crazy. I mean, this goes back to us as citizens.
And then
in terms
another
of
thing,
the people we
you don't
elect,
even need
for
NEMA
sure.
to come to parliament. I can tell you so many. I'm about to put out all the achievements that I did when I was in Senate. Some of them you don't even know because I just wrote letters. I never went to parliament and spoke about it. For instance, there's the issue of the intersex community. The intersex community, just to sensitize the viewer, in case they didn't know, it is not about the lesbians and gays and whatever. It's not a sexuality thing. It is actually a gender thing. The intersex community are individuals who are born with both sexes, both male and female genitalia. And there are few, but in the last census, we have hundreds in the country. So you might not be able, and also it's not something that you can say, hey, Gloria, you're intersex, because it's not like I'm walking naked out here. So they have an issue where, because of how their chemistry and their biology of their hormones and whatever it is, it's not easy for you to say I'm a man or I'm a woman when you're younger. So apparently you grow into the real gender. So you're born with both genitalia, but as you grow up, you realize I'm more of a woman. And then at that point, you can actually take action in terms of, I am a woman, I'm going to live my life as a woman. And then you take the necessary steps, whether it is surgical or just, physically or whatever. Yeah. Now, the issue came when you are born an intersex, but your mother decides I wanted a daughter. So at birth, they register you as Gloria.
Okay.
And they register you as a female. And sometimes they even go as far as, it's called, it's not circumcision, as cutting. They make the decision on who you are. And then apparently what happens, and this is real life stories because they came to my office, is that decision that was made by your parent when you were just born, you grow up and become a man. Right?
Yeah.
So you have a situation where you have full beard, everything. You're a whole man. Because now, this is now when your gender is coming out. But your ID is Gloria.
Female.
And you are only forced to take your ID because your ID is taken with your birth certificate. So you have a situation where some of them can't even transact on M-Pesa because they go and the guy says, umeiba. Gloria, wewe na hizo mandevu zako na nini na nini. You understand?
Yeah.
So the issue at that point was that they needed a policy decision to be made by registration of births and whatever, that okay, makosa imeshafanyika. Maybe our parents were not sensitized enough to be told that you can. It was already passed that now they can be written as I instead of male or female. You can have a child and it can be registered as intersex. So that already is a step in the right direction. But now they were coming to say the policy they needed is that they needed to be able to change their identities. They needed to be able to say, I'm not Gloria, I'm George. It's just my mother thought I was Gloria. Now I'm George. Look at me. What do you think? Yeah, you look like a George. Yeah, but now I'm stuck with this paperwork and this documentation that says I'm Gloria. I didn't need to go to Senate, to the chambers to bring a statement or a motion or a legislation. I just wrote a letter to the director of registrations of persons there in immigration. And they gave them the letter.
Oh, nice.
And I never, until this point, I don't think I've ever spoken about that.
So there were achievements that we don't know about.
So many achievements. And that particular one, by the way, when they went, they had a meeting and whatever. And it's just an issue of now we can. Because also they wanted, you can register as George. But because at 18, not everyone knows who they are. They even now, what their next step is they're trying to push that at between 18 and I think 24, that you have a possibility to keep changing because you're not sure. Because apparently, depending on your genes and what it can take longer.
It can change. Oh.
Yeah. And that is not something that they are choosing. It is not like I'm choosing to be this. This is literally a biological affair. Yeah. This is how God has made them. So, and I have so many of those kind of small achievements that people will just come to my office and I'll tell them, no, this doesn't even need to go to Senate. Wacha nikuandikie barua hapo. I called the DJ. I said, I'm calling from this office, blah, 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 blah. I gave them the letter. They went, the conversation began. They got whatever they were getting. So many things, including gender-based violence.
So it generally means our parliamentarians can
they
work
don't want
when
to go
they
the
want.
extra work.
Yeah.
I've had cases of GBV where we had to bring people to my office. A complainant would come, and because you now have to listen to the usual both sides of the stories, we would call the other person and say, kuja, hakuna si hapa si police station. Kuja tu, tuongee. So many cases of GBV I have solved in my office. So many cases where the person coming to cry to you is saying, I know this is wrong. I know this is gender-based violence. I know that this person is driven by ABCD. I just think that if ABCD, this is the support we need. Because, if we were to lock up all the the aggressors of GBV, I am afraid to say whether it is 2/3 or 1/3 of the country will be in prison. But some of the cases, if your son is brought up in a home where all the male figures every day are beating the women, that is what they know.
Yeah.
So some of these things are even like an upbringing, a cultural things. I have been involved in so many conflicts, and my office, the office of Senator Gloria Orwoba, has resolved without having to go to chambers, they've not been published anywhere. As I've even told you, this thing for the intersex, nowhere did you see anything like that published. Sometimes all it takes is for you to write a letter, just a letter. You just write a letter like this. They see a letter from Senator Gloria Orwoba's office and they do what they're supposed to do.
So you just need people who are willing to work. That's
willing to work and willing to and who are committed to the cause. You can be willing to work, but you're not committed to the cause. Yeah. So if it starts looking like a lot of work or I'm stepping on big toes, you utaachana nayo.
Unachoka.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Well done in some of those things that you've achieved that we didn't know about. But I think basically that is what leadership is, because when you choose to get on that path, it's for a reason and you should live to the calling.
1 billion Kenya shillings that were given for pads was thanks to me. After that incident, I told the president we are bleeding na tunanyesha na hii pesa si enough. 265M is not enough. Na utatupe pesa. And they thought, and I was like, no, but tunanyamkuona, we are bleeding.
Na pesa ikakuja.
1 billion.
Fantastic. We need more, Mr. President, by the way, in that affairs. For sure, the women of Kenya need that. But
you better not ask for more before we get accountability. Itaporwa tu venye hiyo 1 billion iliporwa.
tutaanza accountability we are asking on a daily basis for sure. I want to touch a bit on politics. I have been seeing you move around with the United Opposition and pushing the narrative that Matiang'i is the right candidate, or so I have thought, or it has looked like.
I am with United Opposition, and I do believe the United Opposition is ready and willing and capable to literally save this country from where it's heading and where it already is. Because it is a combination of people who have the history and the knowledge of what is wrong with this country and what is right with this country and what can be better. And that's all you need.
But these people were there and didn't fix a thing.
You can say the same about me. I was in Senate. You can say I didn't fix a thing according to you. But I can tell you right now, so many things that are even happening now are thanks to my presence that I was there. You just don't know. It's easy to say, like I said, it's easy to say, but Gloria was in Senate, what did she do? Until I actually tell you. And until the people who are still in Senate tell you, by the way, hata kama walimsuspend na wakamtoa, hata siku hizi, we are not being sexually harassed. So I served as the example of the sexual harassment, but I can tell you, I made the lives of so many subordinate staff and even members of parliament easier. Okay. So you can't say that about all the principals because they've all been there, and while they have been there, they have done one or two things that was impactful, and they might have even made mistakes, but I can tell you they've learned from their mistakes. Each and every one of them, starting from Kalonzo Musyoka. You can say whatever you want to say, but he has what we call institutional memory. And he's the kind of person who'll tell you, don't do this. When Kibaki did that one, this is what went wrong. Don't do this, because when Moi did this one, he can actually speak of all the presidents that we have had. And I feel like someone like that is a person that is very useful in literally saving this country. Then you go down to Fred, you go next to, not down, let me not be misinterpreted. You go next
because you might be saying something.
Yeah. You go next, we have Fred Matiang'i, and we can speak of all his wins in the education ministry, interior. The other day I was laughing when we were being tear gassed in the church after we came out of it. And
you were in Nyeri? Othaya?
I was in Othaya.
Okay.
I was in Othaya.
How was the experience?
It was terrifying. It was terrifying. It made me go and start doing more research on Kiamba. Because it gave me a glimpse of what the victims of Kiamba might have gone through before they died. It was terrifying. But I after that incident, I remember just casually saying to Dr. Fred Matiang'i, hata serikali yako, hata nyinyi amuku tutia gas kwa kanisa. And the interior ministry of Fred Matiang'i and Kibicho was very firm. And I was like, even with all your firmness, you guys didn't tear gas us in 2022 in church. This is like next level. So people have their wins and people have their mistakes or things that they could have done better. Let me not call them mistakes. And I feel like with that combination, including Rigiji, with that combination, Rigiji is probably the most experienced person on how to deal with William Ruto. Because everyone else in that space has dealt with William Ruto when he was not in power in that capacity, except Rigiji. Kalonzo dealt with William Ruto when they were MPs. When you understand the power dynamics and even him, he was also still struggling to, make it in politics at that time, William Ruto. Matiang'i dealt with William Ruto when he was a deputy, and Matiang'i was not just an interior minister. He was a very powerful. In fact, it's like there was a president, and you could have said that he was co-president, because Uhuru Kenyatta really trusted him and really allowed him to just run his show. So he dealt with Ruto, but he dealt with Ruto in a different capacity, when Ruto was almost like his equivalent. You understand?
Yeah.
Because remember that time Ruto was the deputy, but you remember all the hassles they had with his boss. Wamalwa dealt with Ruto when he was an MP. And I think Wamalwa was a minister for defense. And JB Muturi dealt with Ruto when JB was a speaker.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, the only person who has dealt with William Ruto as a president is Rigathi Gachagua. I keep telling people who know me, the people who know me from primary school, they're like, oh, you've changed. No, I've grown.
I like that.
I've grown. Maybe you're still in primary. Me, I've grown. So if you dealt with me in primary school and someone else has dealt with me now, those are two different people. Rigathi Gachagua has dealt with William Ruto as a president. There are things Rigathi Gachagua will tell you about William Ruto that you who has been with him 10 years in Uhuru Kenyatta's government will be like, because different capacities. So I believe with that combination of that type of group, we'll definitely be able to get this country out of the gutter that we are in, because we are in a gutter. Nothing works.
Do you think it will remain united or fragmented?
But we have no choice. It's not a choice. This is not a multiple choice situation. This is not a T-junction. There's only one way. We must stay united.
Okay. We shall be there.
And you know the good thing is, all the principals know that they have no choice. At the beginning, they kept on all the different principles. Were like, oh, but I feel like Rigiji is like this. You know, I feel like Kalonzo is like that. And then they realized, let me tell you, you will have to sit with this Rigiji the way he is. You will have to sit with this Matiang'i the way he is. You will have to sit with Kalonzo and Malo and JB and Martha Karua the way they are. And if you don't like it, you decide whether you want Ruto back in office. So you come out and then you think, do you want Ruto back in office? You go back there and you deal with those people.
But we have seen people walk out.
Like who?
Wamushomba, Koimbori.
Wamushomba was never in the movement.
She was.
No.
I hosted her here, actually. She was.
No. Wamushomba was never
Where
in the
was
movement. Wamushomba was on an assignment. She was always forever on an assignment. Wamushomba was on an assignment sent by William Ruto to find out what this united opposition is about. In military, you call it a honeypot, where you use different ways to go and get information. Yes.
So who else now? How do we...
Who else? You've said people are walking out. Which other person
Those
has
two,
walked out?
Koimbori. Even after an alleged abduction.
Even now, I can tell you the people who are busy with us and we know they are not with us. We are just waiting for them to go. But even now, we have made a decision that we are going to just out them so we can continue with our work. Many people thought for a long time that I had been sent on
You've
a
not
mission.
been sent?
By who?
You know, they say politics is a game and a lot of things are dramatized and looking very serious.
The people I used to work for could not stand me. They felt it that even in the history of this country that you have never illegally removed someone from office, but we can't stand her for who she is, for what she stands for, that we must remove her. You really think those are the people who can send me on any mission? No. In fact, I can tell you outright, it is like saying Gachagua has been sent on a mission.
I mean, there's also that word that maybe it's also Kenyans being played.
I think Kenyans are a bit pessimistic, and I understand why, but they shouldn't be. Gachagua cannot be sent by Ruto. Ruto couldn't stand Gachagua. He had to remove him from office. Again, something that has never been done, that only Ruto did. Same with me. I am telling you this for a fact. It is because when you have someone who's constantly telling you, we need to go back to the right path, and you have no interest in going back to the right path, you become a liability, you become a barrier, a stumbling block. We must remove you. You understand? And most of the people who have seen what has happened to Gachagua and myself, and JB Muturi was also removed, they are very careful because they want to tell him, like, Ruto, you know, William wende rafiki yetu lakini ground inasema hivi, but they can't because they have seen how he deals with what I would call a diverse opinion.
Okay. Very
So the
interesting.
united opposition will stay together because they all are focused on saving this country, and not because saving this country. People will be like, oh, mnajifanya nyinyi makazi mnatafuta, but we live in this country. I live in this country.
Lakini bado unatafuta kazi either way.
But hata sahi niko kazini.
Ni sawa, lakini sasa now that tuko hapo kwa kazi.
No, niko kazini saizi. Now, by the way, it would have been so much easier for me to just sit out my 5 years, make my money, and then even go back to Denmark. I can go back to Denmark. Forget Denmark. People keep telling me go to Ghana. I can go to Ghana. I have options.
Easily.
I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying.
You're here because you love the nation.
I came back to this country not because I didn't have a place. I had a job and a home outside. But I really like my country. I love my country. And I really think my country can be a first world country, superpower. I believe we have enough resources to just put us squarely on the map up there.
Singapore.
And I actually believe in the things I talk about. I just don't speak about them because now I'm on a show. Like, people who know me on a personal level, they're like, hiyo ndio ubaya yako. Wewe ungekuwa tu mjinga, you would just be okay in Europe and you would just be fine. Unajitafutia mashida. But I really believe in the things that I say, and I really love this country. And I'm telling you, and I've said it repeatedly, the reason I even entered politics is when one day that I looked ABCD at what happened. We went for a meeting and I was trying to get a partnership so that I could bring arts and culture to Europe, Kenyan arts and culture. And I met Najib Balala. And Najib Balala said, we'll do it. And he put a signature. And I asked myself, you mean, yani, a whole trajectory of people's lives can be changed by one man sitting in an office in the name of a cabinet secretary. So I said, I must join politics. Politics is where the change happens.
Yeah.
If you want to change this country, you can go to church, you can pray, you can become a bishop.
Nothing will come out of that.
You can join politics and you'll change this country. You can join this Nairobi that is in shit. You can join the Nairobi County Assembly as an MCA and you will change Nairobi.
That's true.
You will hold that governor who feels so high up there. When he has 5, 10, 15, 34, 45 of you in the same trajectory, he will have no choice but to clean this Nairobi. Because you
true.
understand?
Yeah.
So I keep telling people, yes, corporate is good. Go do your marketing and your sales and everything. You want to change this country. You sit down and you think this country is going the wrong direction. Join politics. I'm not lying. Join politics in any capacity. As a county assembly, as a member of parliament, as a senator. In fact, even join politics as a political analyst going to shows. You will influence people in a way to think on how to change their country. Politics is the number one most impactful and most, the turnaround of your decisions is right there. I've told you, after the incident in parliament, like a joke, and I told the president, we are bleeding. And it was so uncomfortable for the men and him in the room that he gave 1 billion Kenya shillings so I could shut up. Do you know how many years that in budgeting, cabinet secretaries of gender have been fighting to get more than 200 million? Then this girl called Gloria Orwoba, an accident happens to her in Senate and she decides not to change her clothes. Then she tells the president, we are bleeding. Nani hivo venye nimekuambia. Then 1 billion.
1 billion comes through.
You understand?
Yeah.
Do you know how many policy documentation and paperwork would have to take for you to justify a kind of gender budgeting of 1 billion for pads? It's crazy.
It's a lot of money.
UNFPA, UNICEF, and all these other UN agencies that were working with me, it's not because they like me. This one is onto something. Like, we've been trying to get this government to do certain things, and it looks like maybe, just maybe, with this one, we can get it done.
Yeah.
And the moment they removed me out of Senate, it's like a ball, it just dropped. And that's also because it was not institutionalized. That's why I was trying to push the bill. So that whether I'm in Senate or I'm not in Senate, there is a law that says you must do this.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying middle-class Kenyans that think politics is about kukua muheshimiwa, wiu na magari na nini. That's for the people who don't understand why they're in politics. If you are so tired of KPLC inflating your bills and Nairobi Water deciding when to switch off the water, and all these things of traffic and all the nonsense that's happening, and you just want to change it, join politics.
Join politics. We need good leaders and good legislators everywhere. So, in line with that, what position are you going for in 2027?
I'm definitely going to parliament. And I still would like to represent the women and the girls of this country. And on an elective seat.
MP. You said parliament, so MP or Senate? Either.
You know, even Senate, those are members of parliament. It's
that's why I've said MP or Senate.
No, senators are members of parliament.
Yes.
It's just those are two houses. There's the Senate or the National Assembly.
So, but you're going to which house?
I am going to the National Assembly.
Okay. So, member of parliament of...
I'm going to the National Assembly to represent women. So, and very soon you will see.
Okay. She has refused to say it, but I tried my best.
No, because I don't want to, also there's a lot of confusion. Like I've seen an individual in Nairobi. One day she announced that she's going to be governor. The next day someone went for her event. She became a deputy governor. And on the third day she announced she's a woman rep.
So it went.
I don't know if today she'll announce she's a member of county assembly.
It's fine. Maybe someone, you go to sleep
not
and
that I have not
through.
Decided. It's just I have to be able to. I'm making sure that my whole team is sensitized and is on the same page with me.
Okay.
But one thing is that this face is going to be in parliament.
Okay.
Yeah.
We wish you the very
best.
And
I hope and I pray that the Kenyans who are watching this show also see what I have to offer. I mean, it's a very short show to sell my manifesto and agenda. That's not why I came here. But I hope that they at least understand that I'm a person who will not be coerced into doing things, even if it means that it will cost me my job. And I have not seen any other member of parliament who is willing and ready to give up their job just for the truth and to make sure that the voice of the people is heard. I'm that person. Okay. So I hope wanipe kura even just based on that person.
When you announce, the members of that constituency will decide. But for sure, the women...
What do you think I should vie for?
Very interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you are the one who was to influence me.
If I'm to influence you, I think the National Assembly is a good spot.
As what?
Because as an MP,
of a single constituency, of a women rep, or because they have two levels of MPs?
I think the member of one constituency, to me, is very impactful. I just feel like women reps have potential, but they're just hanging in there.
Because they haven't defined and delivered as to the expectations of the Constitution.
Yeah, and also they cry that they do not have a good budget for some of these things. So I feel like as an MP, you have it's easier for you to push for things.
As a nominated senator, I had zero budget.
Zero. They give you nothing.
Nothing. I don't even my office. I don't have an operational budget for my office.
That's okay.
And look at the things I've achieved. As a nominated senator, I have my salary. And then the Parliamentary Service Commission hires for me a personal assistant and a secretary.
Okay.
That's it. I have no budget for anything. Everything you saw me doing all these 3 years, zero budget. I fundraise. I bring donors on board. I bring stakeholders on board. I have zero budget. As a matter of fact, we even for the provision of our workers, we are only allowed, there's a maximum budget to employ, but even they restrict you. By the time I was leaving, we were restricted to you're given a bodyguard from the police, then you are given a personal assistant who is hired directly under Parliamentary Service Commission, and a secretary who's hired directly under Parliamentary Service Commission.
So 3 people.
Yeah, and then they give you an office.
Okay.
And then if you want papers and a printer, they give you a printer and papers. So everything you ever saw me doing was not in any budget. So why would...
so you can run as a woman representative.
My question always is, why is a woman representative talking about budgets when even the things that don't need budgets, you are not doing?
Those ones are failures.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Before you start talking about budget, me as a nominated, I never had. They have NGAF.
Yes.
They have the Affirmative
National.
Action Fund, and some of them have up to 15 plus million. Some, I think, even 20 per financial year. We had nominated. We have nothing. If you see a nominated senator doing anything out here, they have zero money. They are either using their salary, they are either using stakeholders. Everything you saw me doing, including billboards, is not over any fund that I have.
Okay. So you can go for any of those seats.
I can go for any of the seats.
I mean,
So
if
you
you
would
manage
vote, so
to
you
do
would
that,
vote for me if I was going to vie for any seat in any region.
Yeah, if I'm in that region, I will vote for you. I am convinced, halfway, not fully, but
you.
halfway convinced so
Thank
far.
you.
If I get to understand you better with time, maybe
Yeah, I
now
feel like
I'll
I'm
get
really
there 100.
misunderstood. The public knows very little about who I am and what I stand for.
Yeah,
And I do hope in the next couple of months, at least, I can be able to demystify that.
yeah. Keep doing
And
it.
obviously, the government has paid up bloggers and propaganda people to just write me off as a lipstick slay queen. And I understand it's the game. Politics is like
Politics is ugly though. It
that.
has that ugly
It's
side.
like that. So saa zingine mkiangalia vitu zingine, just also know, learn how to recognize a smear campaign.
But it's good. I mean, I keep saying it's good people sit and talk, because you see now there's someone who's watched this and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
you were able to push for those things.
Yeah.
So I think also as women, and this is a thing particularly for women, because on this show, I will call men and they will show up without even rejecting. You invite women and they're like, well,
Yeah,
so even women
yeah.
need to stand up and communicate what they are doing.
Yeah.
It's not a shame. I mean, you've done it. Whatever you've done, you've done. If you've not done, too bad we can't help you at that.
No,
but for those ones who've delivered,
I will put out my scorecard, and I'm sure, if not for anything, just, and this is what I keep telling people, that they might not know everything that I've done. I've done a lot of things, but sometimes it's also just what you stand for.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so for everyone who sits here, they leave a question for the next guest.
Okay.
Yeah, so the last person I sat with is political analyst Chegema Juice. That was on Tuesday, and his question was, what do you feel, looking at what is happening in Kenya, what do you feel is the future of the youth of this country?
I don't think there is a future of the youth of this country. I think the youth of this country are living in their future. That's why they must take action.
Okay.
This is what I think.
That's an interesting answer.
Yeah, you know, when people say, oh, what's in your future? And then you look at the circumstances around the present.
Yeah.
And you're like, actually, there's no future. I'm living in my future. And if I don't fix what is happening now, I can't even think of the future. And what's happening now is that we are churning out so many graduates, both on the university level and the technical vocational education training institutions level, and we are not producing anything. We don't have any manufacturing. Even the creative industry is thinning out. We are literally not producing. We are not producers. We are consumers. And so when you ask me, what do you think is the future of the youth? The youth squarely in most, let me not call them third world, but developing countries, the future of the youth is pegged on production. And it doesn't have to be like hard production of we're manufacturing mortar, brick and what, but production in general, even in the creative, in the innovative space. And if you cannot account for production in your country, what's going to happen is you are just giving birth to consumers. So we have a lot of dependency. Yeah. That is why right now, you can have a 35-year-old man or woman in their parents' house. Me, I'm born 86. By the time I was 19, I was out of my father's house. And it didn't feel like pressure. It was like the standard procedure. Then you go to university. Then you have to get a job. Because we were producing. So there was a lot of, there was work. We were producing, people were working, people were, whether in the manufacturing space, whether even, you know, when the country is producing, then even the civil service is acting as a support to the production. So you find there are more opportunities even within civil service. For instance, even these organizations like National Employment Authority, Can Invest. Can Invest is squarely about bringing investors to Kenya and making sure they have an environment. If investors are not coming to Kenya to produce, Can Invest is reducing their staff.
Yeah.
So it's like that. It's like a symbiotic relationship that even civil service has with this. And we are not producing. We are shutting down production. And I'm not just talking about manufacturing plants. I'm talking about innovative spaces. We are shutting down. When was the last time you had something as brilliant as M-Pesa coming out from this our country? And it's not because we don't have innovative people. It's because any opportunity that we get, including this thing they are calling the Nyota Fund. Nyota Fund is an opportunity that can be used in a more brilliant way to produce innovators, but we are dishing it out as handouts. So there's no future for the youth unless they fix
So
now.
we have to fix.
Even they have to be part of fixing.
Yeah.
They cannot say, you guys fix it. You're the ones who ruined it. Yeah, we could be the ones who ruined it, but you're the ones who are going to be messed by it.
Yeah.
So that's why when the Gen Z happened, I was happy. Because it was their way of saying, hey, look now, we are part of this country and we are going to participate in the decisions that are being made. So for me, when you say, what is there for the future? What is the future of the youth of this country? When I say there is no future for the youth of this country unless they fix the present. And it will start with leadership. Because this leadership has really killed production in this country. By their policies of taxation, monopolization of industries, state officers and government entities and the executive doing business with any other, they've killed even the SMEs. Even the tenderpreneurs who used to go and sell maize to the county assembly. Now it's back. Everything is being dealt with 5 people or 6 people in government. They are the ones doing business. This administration has really killed institutions that would support the youth. You heard me talking about Youth Fund, Uwezo Fund, even this NYS. This administration has killed these institutions. It has killed the core of these institutions. It has gone in and messed up with the policies and the objectives and the goals of these institutions. It has slashed down budgets because it's now moving budgets to State House. But State House has a 7 billion budget. You wonder whether 7 billion should go to State House or it should go to Uwezo Fund or Youth Fund, or whether it should go to NYS. You understand?
Yeah.
So if you are a youth in this country, and before you ask yourself, what is my future and how does it look like? I'm trying to tell you, umeenda mbali. Fix the present so that you can be able to foresee a kind of future that is not even necessarily a very bright future, but it will at least give you something where you can start from. You can say, at least even now I have a future. But as we are standing, when you see countries disintegrating into civil war and failed states, it's not like they wake up on Tuesday and say, from today we are going to be a failed state. It happens slowly. It happens slowly. First, it's the disintegration of independent organizations and institutions, which we are past that. Then it goes into now this police force and whatever being used in the. Then it goes into nowadays you see in town unatembea na simu hivi unanyang'anywa simu. That is an indicator of where we're going. To some extent, there was a part where phone theft was so low.
Yeah.
Because now phones were available to everyone. And there was no market of selling a second-hand phone. But we are slowly going back to that era where there was no hope for the future of the youth.
So we have to fix the now if we want a future.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Very deep analysis there.
Do I have to give a question?
Yes, you have to leave a question for the next guest.
Maybe my question would be, how, 5 years from now, what will people remember you for?
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
What will people remember you for 5 years from now? What will people, so that whoever comes here, whatever industry they are in, they really now have to think if they're impactful.
Yes, very important, very deep. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been great having you around and having this conversation with you. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I have also and sort of got an understanding of the ugly side of parliament and politics also.
Yeah.
I mean, we know there are those ones, but that part of because you're pregnant and that's crazy.
Can you imagine? How many kids do you have?
None at the moment.
Okay, so you can't imagine. If you had kids, I would ask you, can you imagine hiding a pregnancy for 9 months?
I find it crazy already. So anyway, thank you so much to you who has been watching this episode.
And thank you for having me.
Anytime, you're always welcome. At least now you know where we are. And the next time we invite you, obviously you will show up. I can tell.
I will.
Great. Yeah. That's good. Thank you to you who's been watching. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a fantastic weekend and be kind to one another.